Singasabi, siyabafuna.
Tata John Steenhuisen, Tata.
Tata. Okay.
Viva DA, viva!
Viva!
Pambili DA, Pambili! Forward to corruption-free government, forward! Forward to DA government, forward! Forward to the 1st of November, forward! Democrats, citizens, welcome and thank you for coming here today to Mary Fitzgerald Square in beautiful, soon-to-be DA-run Johannesburg. Welcome to our DA Gets Things Done rally, our final national rally before the polls next Monday. We've still got over 1 week to go, Democrats. We've got to get out there and persuade even more people to put their trust in the only party that has shown it has what it takes to save and liberate our towns and cities across South Africa. The only party that can say with complete honesty, we get things done. So let's make this week count, because the stakes in these elections couldn't possibly be any higher. Now, a week from now, all of you will stand before a decision that could make or break your town. It could set the very trajectory and course for our country to follow. It's going to take you a few seconds in that voting booth to make your mark, and then fold your ballot paper and put it in the box. But the choice you make there will stay with you for many, many years to come. And that's why you need to be smart about this. You need to think really, really carefully about what exactly it is you want for your town or your city and what it's going to take to make it happen. And then you need to vote with your head. Now forget for a moment about all these emotional appeals from parties who will beg you for their loyalty because once, long, long ago, they played a role in the liberation struggle. Forget about all these brand new parties that spring up before every single election like a field of overnight mushrooms and then fade away just as quickly afterwards. Forget about all the small parties that don't have the numbers to properly represent you. And they certainly don't have the numbers to keep the ANC or the EFF out. Forget too about these gimmicks, independent candidates who don't stand for any particular values, policies, or manifesto offers. They cannot be held to account on any of these things once the votes are cast. Vote smart and vote with your head.
Yes.
So what is it that we're voting for next Monday? This is a local government elections, which means that you're voting for a government that's going to be tasked with the day-to-day running of your town or your city. This is about service delivery. It's about infrastructure maintenance. It's about looking after every cent of your money and making sure the money is spent well and on the people and not stolen or spent on the politicians. Now, if you can do these things well, your municipality has every chance to succeed. But if you fail to do the basics, your municipality will fail, and that is guaranteed. And by fail, I mean the total collapse of a municipality's service delivery, the total collapse of its finances, and the total collapse of its local economy. Now, this isn't some scary prediction for one day in the future. This has already happened in dozens of municipalities across the country. In August this year, national government put together a list of 64 municipalities that they consider delinquent or dysfunctional. A new in-depth study by News 24 into municipal governance has added another 43 of on the verge of collapse municipalities to this list. So what does this mean? It means that right now, as we gather here today, 107 out of South Africa's 278 municipalities have either already failed or they are about to fail.
Bua.
This is a disaster, Democrats. It's a disaster for the millions of South Africans who have no choice but to continue living in these failed municipalities. Now, if we want to save these places, we've got to be honest about what is wrong with these places. We have to find that common thread that runs through all these failing towns and cities, a thread that we can identify as being responsible for that decay. And when we find that common thread, we need to loosen it and pull it out, or else the decay will become so bad that we will never fix it.
Ulala.
Now, I suspect, because you're all clever Democrats, that you know what this common thread is, don't you? Do you know what it is? The one thing that all these broken towns and cities share is an ANC local government.
Bua.
An ANC local government. The mark of the ANC sits like fingerprints on a crime scene across every single failed town and city. One by one, they've broken these municipalities, and then they've left the residents there to pick up the pieces. Now, some of you have tuned into this broadcast this morning. Will be listening to this speech from those broken municipalities. And you will know exactly what I'm talking about. You will know about the raw sewage that runs freely down the streets or is pumped straight into streams and rivers. You will know about electricity outages that go on for days on end, not because of load shedding, but because no maintenance has been done on any substations. You will know about water shortages that have absolutely nothing to do with droughts and dam levels, and everything to do with a local government that cannot maintain its pump or fix pipe leaks. You will know about the filthy streets where piles of refuse go uncollected for weeks and where grass on the verges has not been cut in months. You will know about the traffic lights that have been broken for longer than they've worked, and street lights that haven't worked at all this year. I have been to these towns. I have seen all these things for myself. And I have seen communities where people are still subjected to the inhumane and dangerous pit toilets. I've seen people, gogos, walking kilometers with wheelbarrows and containers to collect water for that evening's meal and bath.
Oh.
I've seen the rot and the decay in these ANC-run towns, and it is horrible. Nobody should have to live like that.
Yes.
Nobody.
Ooh,
But Democrats, even sadder than the physical collapse of these places is the loss of hope for the future. When a municipality falls apart like that, it's only a matter of time before the local businesses start closing down or moving elsewhere. And this is happening all across the country as we speak. It's not just a few big factories like Clover and Lichtenburg, which we saw in the news in the Northwest. It's hundreds of small business and micro enterprises that would struggle to break even at the best of times. But now throw in the world's worst governing party, a very poorly managed pandemic, and it becomes almost impossible to keep your business afloat. For every small business that folds, dozens of workers and their family members are left destitute, and they join the long queues of the unemployed in these economic ghost towns. In these places, youth unemployment is so high that many simply accept that they will never, ever have work. I've been into homes just outside Graafrenet in the Eastern Cape. I've been into homes in the Northern Cape and in Limpopo with young people in their late 20s and 30s who haven't worked a single day in their lives. Not because they don't want to, but because this government has killed jobs. Why must South Africa be this country? Why should we have the world's highest youth unemployment? Surely we can do better than that. Surely we can do better than that. And the answer, Democrats, is yes, we can. But only if we're prepared to acknowledge why things got so bad in the first place. And the short answer to that is the ANC. Because you see, as a party of government, the ANC has a fatal flaw. It puts its own interests ahead of the interests of the people it is meant to serve. And what I mean by this is that it places its own people in crucial government positions, regardless of whether they can actually do the job. All that matters is that those people in that inner circle are rewarded with jobs and access to contracts. They call this cadre deployment. And you know what? They're not even ashamed of it. It's not a secret they're trying to hide. They're proud of it. Skanda! What an absolute disgrace. But what this cadre deployment does is it hollows out government, and particularly local government, to the point where it becomes just an empty shell of cadres, drawing salaries and adding nothing of value. Now, when this is repeated across all the departments and for many years, local governments simply stop working. Bit by bit, the critical functions of a municipality grind to a halt. Municipal vehicles aren't serviced, and eventually towns have no more working trucks to collect refuse. Water treatment plants are not maintained, leading to catastrophic failures and ongoing sewerage spills. Pipe leaks and broken pumps cause water interruptions that go on for weeks at a time. And once you reach this stage of service delivery collapse, your municipality enters into a death spiral. Because if you can no longer deliver services, you can no longer charge residents for them. And without income, your municipality is dead. Now, all of these things happen slowly at first, but then they start to happen very, very quickly. And because no one is ever held accountable for their performance, it carries on and on and on until the entire thing just collapses. Now, that, my fellow citizens, is the bad news.
Viva John Steenhuisen, viva!
That's the bad news. But today is about the good news. Today is about what we can do to stop this collapse and rescue these towns and cities from the decay. And believe me, it is possible to do it. And I can stand here before you today in this square with confidence, because we have the evidence of what happens when you do the opposite of what this failing ANC has done to these failing towns and cities. And I'm talking, of course, of all the municipalities run by the DA. Now, many of them are outright majorities, and some of them are coalition governments. Across the country, these DA municipalities serve as a contrast and a constant reminder of what our country could be under a better government. Because that is what we are, Democrats, a far better government than the ANC. Now, there are many differences between our two parties. There are many, many differences between our ideologies. And our approaches to the economy are the polar opposites. But arguably, the biggest difference between us has to do with our values, our motivation for doing what we do every day. Now, in the DA, we believe that the people come first, not the party. And this means that every decision we take in government places the interests of the people front and center. We don't fill our governments with ill-equipped cadres who have no skills and no interest in public service. We don't bloat our governments to the point where cadre salaries suck up the entire budget, and we don't tolerate poor performance or corruption. We don't recycle and redeploy disgraced cadres in the DA. And that is the only way that we can build a capable government that's going to be able to deliver. And that is why DA governments work and ANC governments fail. But I don't want you to just take my word for it. I don't want you to just believe me, although I think I'm a very believable guy, don't you? Because let me tell you, anybody can come and make claims about how good they are and how bad their opponents are. But lucky for us, Democrats, there are independent measurements that you can look at to see who is lying and who is telling the truth about these claims. It's a job of trusted institutions like Stats South Africa and the Auditor General, as well as independent organizations like Ratings Africa, to pore over all the data and compile reports of all sorts of governance performance. And that's where you need to go if you want to cut through the spin-doctoring politics and lies of this ANC government that has the temerity to put up a sign in JB Marks that said it is the best-run local municipality in the country when it's one of the 64 that's under administration and one of the many municipalities that is classified as dysfunctional. We don't have to tell lies about our performance. We have to just show you the truth about our performance. And thanks to the Auditor General's report every year, we can see which municipalities are financially responsible and which ones are guilty of waste and poor reporting. And year after year, it is DA governments that come out on top with clean audits. Let's give our governments a round of applause. Thanks to Stats SA, we know which municipalities and metros offer their poorest residents the widest access to basic services. And again, it's DA governments that are shown to have the most pro-poor offer of services. Let's give our governments a round of applause. Stats SA also tells us where you will find the highest and lowest unemployment rates. And here we can see that Cape Town has the lowest unemployment rate of all the metros by some distance. And that DA-run Midvaal has a far lower unemployment rate than any of its ANC-run neighbors. Let's give Cape Town and Midvaal a round of applause. Thanks to Ratings Africa, we can rank municipalities according to their financial sustainability. And these rankings put DA-run municipalities in the top 5 positions, which is remarkable when you consider that less than 10% of the country's municipalities are governed by the DA. The DA dominance in rankings was also backed up by a municipal report just released by News 24. This report, called the Out of Order Index, confirms that 14 of the 20 municipalities in the country, of the cleanest municipalities, are in the DA-run Western Cape. But it doesn't stop there, because the index also shows that DA-run Koga is the best performing municipality in the Eastern Cape. And DA-run Midvaal is the best performing municipality in Gauteng. You can't argue with facts. You can't argue with facts.
Yes.
So stop telling lies, ANC, and we'll keep telling the truth. And that is why our message to voters ahead of these elections is that the DA and only the DA gets things done. And when we say this, we are stating facts that have been independently measured and reported by others. Objectively, you're more likely to have access to water, electricity, and sanitation and refuse removal if you live in a DA municipality. Objectively, you're more likely to receive these services for free if you are poor and live in a DA-run municipality. Objectively, you have a better chance of finding work if you live in a DA-run municipality. Objectively, less public money will be wasted, stolen, or misreported in a DA-run municipality. And because these things are true, DA municipalities operate in a sustainable cycle.
Viva John Steenhuisen! Viva!
Because we're able to deliver reliable services, we're also able to bill these services. And because we collect payment, we're able to then expand our service delivery. Simply put, the DA understands what it takes to run an efficient municipality. The DA knows what needs to be done, and we understand the positive effect that this can have on the lives of ordinary South Africans. Democrats, we've got to improve people's quality of life. It doesn't mean that where we govern, we are satisfied. We will never be satisfied. Ours is a country with enormous social and economic challenges. And this is true in DA-run towns and cities too. We know that life is hard for many people where we govern. We know that poverty and unemployment still haunts many people, even if they live in a better-run municipality than the one next door. But we're not satisfied, we're not complacent about this, and we will never be content with our achievements. We can and we must do better. But the base from which we need to improve is so much higher. We're so far ahead of the ANC government that we're in a better position to achieve our goals. With your help next Monday, we can bring this DA difference to even more South Africans. But fellow South Africans, the primary job of a local government is to provide basic services, maintain infrastructure, and look after public money. But the DA governments don't stop there. Our mission is also to protect South Africans from the failures of national government. Many of these failures, load shedding, collapse of commuter rail, insufficient policing, fall out of the mandate of local government. But if we leave these things to the ANC, they're going to drag us all down under with them. And we cannot stand by and let this happen, and particularly not where we govern. And this is why we've made commitments to fight for the power to take on these functions. We're going to challenge the national government's monopoly on all of these things, and we will ultimately win. When you elect a DA local government, know that you're getting far more than just the job description of a local government. You're going to get a party that will fight to insulate you from the worst failures of this national government. We're going to get our trains running again at full capacity. We're going to take over this function from national government and PRASA. This is not something the ANC are going to let go easily, but we're going to fight and we're going to win. We've never backed down from a fight, and we're not going to back down. Another area where we're going to succeed is the provision of electricity to residents of DA-run metros and councils. Eskom cannot keep the lights on, and we cannot let them sink our country. They are the biggest threat to our economy. And we've already been fighting under the City of Cape Town to allow municipalities to procure their own electricity directly from independent power producers. And we've got a pilot project underway in 6 Western Cape municipalities preparing for this. When this program's finished, we're going to roll it out to DA-run municipalities around the country. And then a third area where DA local governments will step in to rescue you as residents from the failure of national government is safety and policing. It's no secret that SAPS is ill-equipped, outnumbered, and outgunned in almost every community. People are terrified of criminals in their homes, in their businesses, and in their workplaces. And by Bheki Cele's own admission, this under-resourcing is a nationwide problem. But why then does he not devolve these policing functions to competent local government? We don't accept Bheki Cele's centralization of Metro Police. And as with the electricity issue, we've been fighting for this devolution. And we are not going to stop until the people tasked with fighting crime are the people closest to the problem and closest to the affected communities. Already, the City of Cape Town has augmented visible policing on the Cape Flats by deploying its own LEAP officers there. And after the 2016 elections, the DA government in Nelson Mandela Bay launched that city's first Metro Police service. We're not going to sit back. We're not going to sit back and say, oh, these things are not the job of local government, because we know that if we don't do it, it won't get done. But we cannot do it alone. We can lay the facts before you and ask you to join us on this mission, but ultimately it's going to fall to each and every one of you to choose that path. So let's talk about that choice. The simple truth is that on the 3rd of November, you will wake up in either a DA-run government or an ANC government. There's no other realistic options. How you vote on the first is going to determine this outcome.
Yeah.
Now, I know that some of you believe that a vote for another small party could do the trick, but this is not true. If the ANC can't get your vote, they would love you to vote for another small party, because by splitting the non-ANC vote up among smaller parties, their own slice of the pie just becomes more dominant. The best outcome for the ANC is a fragmented opposition vote. Don't be fooled into thinking that any vote is good as long as it's not for the ANC. But they're not the only party hoping you'll split the vote among smaller parties. In many municipalities, the EFF is waiting for precisely this to happen. Such a split won't eat into their votes, so there's a possibility they could end up as the official opposition in these municipalities. Do we want that to happen?
No. Never.
No.
If this were to happen, it'll be catastrophic for these towns, as the ANC and the EF will be locked in a fight about who can be more radical and who can be more populist than each other, and will leave the people in those towns even poorer.
Yeah.
Then you have to consider what happens to your vote after you've given it to one of these smaller parties, because many of those votes will end up with the ANC.
Yeah.
Some of these parties have even been swallowed up by the ANC. I strongly recommend that you look at how all these parties have behaved in coalition governments. How many of them flip-flop between coalitions? How many of them are mysteriously enticed to jump back into bed with the ANC? The only way to ensure defeat of the ANC and to ensure the EFF stays far away from your local government is uniting behind the one party that can keep them out.
Yeah.
That is our party.
Out.
It's the DA party.
Yeah.
The undeniable truth is that where the DA governs with an outright majority, we get more done. All of those top-ranked municipalities and the Ratings Africa or News 24 Index are all run by the DA alone and have been for multiple terms. When we alone have our hands on the steering wheel, we can put that vehicle into full top gear and move as fast as we can to achieving service delivery, without other hands trying to pull the steering wheel this way and that. Consider that the best-run municipalities in the Western Cape are all outright DA-run, and the worst ones are either ANC-run or ANC-dominated coalitions. And this is why I've been asking people across the length and breadth of the country these past months to give the DA an outright mandate to bring our vision and our brand of clean governance to their towns and cities. Give us 5 uninterrupted years, and we will be able to stabilize the finances, to clean out the corruption, and to get service delivery back on track. If those 5 years can convince you that the DA can be trusted, then we can talk about another 5 years after that, because that's how democracy works. No one owes any party loyalty for life. It's a 5-year contract that doesn't have to be renewed. No one owes any party a reward for a long-ago struggle. Our task is to secure the future, not to live in the past. No one owes a party a vote because of their language or culture. That voting behavior is a dead end. When you stand in that voting booth next Monday, look through that list of parties on your ballot paper and ask these important questions. Does this party have any experience in running a government? Do they have a track record that I can look at? What does this track record say? How does it compare with the only other governing party, the ANC? Where does this party stand on clean, efficient governance and sound financial management? Does it achieve clean audits? Does this party have a proven track record of fighting corruption? Does this party deploy unqualified cadres to government, or does it build capable governments with fit-for-purpose individuals? Is this party big enough to challenge the ANC's dominance and to keep the EFF out? And most importantly, does this party do what it says? Do you have a reason to believe the promises it makes in its election manifesto? Now, if you were to answer each of these questions honestly, your choice would be simple. There's only one party that can save our failing towns and cities and turn them around. There's only one party that doesn't just do the minimum of its job, but goes beyond to fight for the dignity and the future of our people where it governs. There's only one party with a proud track record in government, backed up by every independent report and ranking that says this party gets things done. South Africans, that's my party, it's your party, it's our party, it's the DA party.
Viva John Steenhuisen! Viva!
So if you care about your country, if you care about your municipality,
Yes.
if you care about building a better future for your children in your town or your city, join me in putting our crosses next to the one party that can do what needs to be done, the Democratic Alliance.
John Steenhuisen in Ghana!